The case of a missing woman found murdered in the desert earlier this month. Police arrested a third person connected to the killing of Esmeralda Gonzalez. 8 News Now reporter Kristen Drummond is in the newsroom now with the latest.
Sasha, police issued an arrest warrant Thursday for 39-year-old Cassandra Bascones. Court records show she faces multiple charges, including first-degree murder and kidnapping. She's the latest suspect in the case. 45-year-old Christopher Prestipino and 31-year-old Lisa Mort were also arrested in connection to the murder. Both appeared in court last week. Authorities say Esmeralda Gonzalez was missing for 5 months before a tip led police to her body earlier this month. Detectives located it in the desert encased in a homemade concrete and a wooden structure. An arrest report revealed the 24-year-old was a prostitute and hired by Prestipino. After using meth together in his home, the two argued and Prestipino strangled her after she punched him in the face and threatened to call the police. Investigators suspect Prestipino held Gonzalez against her will at his home. The report also reveals she died after being injected with pool cleaner. Back to you.
People often told me that my smile was infectious, that it could brighten even the darkest of days. It was my signature look, the one thing that made me stand out in a crowd. I loved hearing those compliments. They made me feel special, like I had a unique gift to share with the world. My dark eyes sparkled with life. They were the windows to my soul, revealing a depth of emotion that words could never capture. Friends would often say that my eyes had a way of drawing people in, making them feel seen and understood. It was as if my eyes held a secret, a hidden story that only a few could decipher. On Instagram, I was a star. My followers adored me, showering me with likes and comments. Each post was a carefully curated glimpse into my life, designed to captivate and inspire. I spent hours perfecting my photos, choosing the right filters, and crafting the perfect captions. It was a full-time job, but one that I relished. The validation I received from my online community was intoxicating. I loved to share my life with my followers. From my morning coffee to my evening workouts, every moment was an opportunity to connect. I felt a sense of responsibility to my audience, to keep them entertained and engaged. They looked up to me, and I didn't want to let them down. My life became a series of photo ops, each one more elaborate than the last. I posted pictures of my outfits, my makeup, and my travels. Fashion was my passion, and I loved experimenting with different styles. My makeup tutorials were a hit, with followers eager to replicate my looks. Traveling was another favorite, each destination offering new backdrops for my photos. I wanted to show the world that I was living my best life, that I had it all figured out. I seemed to have it all. The glamorous lifestyle, the adoring fans, the endless opportunities. On the surface, my life was perfect. But perfection is an illusion, a carefully constructed facade. Behind the scenes, things were far from perfect. The pressure to maintain my image was overwhelming, and the cracks were starting to show. But behind the glamorous facade, I was hiding a dark secret, a secret that gnawed at me, day and night. I was struggling with my mental health, battling demons that no one could see. The more I tried to hide it, the more it consumed me. I felt like I was living a double life, one that was slowly unraveling, a secret that would eventually lead to my tragic demise. The weight of my struggles became too much to bear. I felt isolated, despite being surrounded by people. The facade I had built was crumbling, and I didn't know how to stop it. My life, once filled with so much promise, was spiraling out of control.
Esmeralda Gonzalez was born and raised in Las Vegas. The City of Lights, known for its vibrant nightlife and endless entertainment, was her playground. She grew up amidst the glitz and glamour, dreaming of one day becoming a star. Las Vegas was a city of dreams, but for Esmeralda, it also held a darker side. The desert city was her home, but it held a darkness for her. Beneath the bright lights and bustling streets, there was a sense of emptiness. The desert, with its vast, barren landscape, mirrored the loneliness she felt inside. It was a place of contrasts, where dreams could be made or shattered in an instant. Beneath the surface, Esmeralda was struggling. She put on a brave face, but inside, she was falling apart. The pressures of her online persona, combined with personal challenges, were taking a toll. She felt like she was drowning, unable to catch her breath. The weight of her struggles was becoming unbearable. Life had thrown her some curveballs. She faced challenges that would have broken anyone. But Esmeralda was strong, or at least she tried to be. She fought hard to keep her head above water, to maintain the image she had worked so hard to build. But the cracks were starting to show, and she didn't know how much longer she could hold on. She battled with mental health issues, a burden she carried silently. The stigma surrounding mental health made it difficult for her to seek help. She felt ashamed, like she was failing somehow. But mental health is not a sign of weakness. It's a part of being human. Esmeralda's struggle was real, and it was taking a toll on her. Still, she tried to present a brave face to the world. She continued to post on Instagram, sharing moments of joy and beauty. Her followers had no idea what she was going through. They saw the smiles, the perfect photos, the glamorous life. But behind the scenes, Esmeralda was fighting a battle that no one could see. On Instagram, her smile remained bright, masking the turmoil within. She used her platform as a way to escape, to create a world where everything was perfect. But perfection is an illusion, and the cracks were starting to show. Esmeralda's story is a reminder that behind every smile there may be a struggle we know nothing about.
Life hadn't been easy for me. My childhood was far from idyllic. The weight of a difficult upbringing pressed down on me. Mental health issues cast a shadow over my life. I fought bravely against these inner demons. I longed for stability, for peace, for a love that would heal my wounds. But fate, it seemed, had other plans.
Esmeralda's search for love and stability led her to Michael Medina. He seemed like her knight in shining armor, promising her the world. They fell in love and got married. For a while, Esmeralda allowed herself to hope. Maybe, just maybe, she had found her happily ever after. But her dreams were soon to turn into a horrifying nightmare. The man she loved would become her tormentor. The fairy tale romance soon crumbled, revealing a nightmare. Michael Medina was not the man Esmeralda thought he was. He was controlling, manipulative, and cruel. He introduced Esmeralda to a world of drugs, a world that promised escape, but delivered only despair. Esmeralda, already vulnerable, fell deeper into the abyss of addiction. Her life, once filled with promise, was spiraling out of control.
I saw Esmeralda's vulnerability and exploited it for my own gain. I forced her into prostitution, preying on her addiction and her desperation.
Esmeralda became trapped in a web of exploitation and abuse. Her life, once displayed so brightly on Instagram, was now shrouded in darkness. The light in her eyes began to fade, replaced by fear and despair.
I was living a double life. On the surface, everything seemed perfect. I had the looks, the followers, and the glamorous lifestyle that everyone envied. But beneath that facade, my life was anything but perfect. To the world, I was the glamorous Instagram model. My feed was filled with beautiful photos, each one meticulously curated to show a life of luxury and happiness. But those photos were just a mask, hiding the pain and fear that consumed me every day. But in reality, I was a prisoner in my own home. The walls that surrounded me were not just physical barriers, but emotional ones as well. I felt trapped, suffocated by the life I had created and the man who controlled it.
Medina controlled her every move, using threats and violence to keep her under his thumb. He was a master manipulator, knowing exactly how to exploit her fears and insecurities to maintain his power over her. He took away her phone, isolating her from her friends and family. Without her phone, she had no way to reach out for help, no way to connect with the outside world. She was completely cut off, alone in her suffering. Esmeralda was alone, trapped in a nightmare of Medina's making. The darkness of her room mirrored the darkness of her mind, a place where hope seemed to have vanished. She felt like a ghost haunting the life she once knew.
The drugs provided a temporary escape from the horrors of my reality. They dulled the pain, numbed the fear, and for a brief moment made me feel like I could breathe again. But that relief was always short-lived. But the escape was fleeting, the descent into addiction only tightening Medina's grip on my life. I was desperate. The more I relied on the drugs, the more control he had over me. It was a vicious cycle, one that I couldn't seem to break free from.
She knew she had to get away from Medina, that he was destroying her. Every day, the weight of his control grew heavier, and the light within her dimmed. She realized that if she didn't escape, she would lose herself completely. She clung to a sliver of hope, a belief that she could escape the nightmare and reclaim her life. That hope was her lifeline, the one thing that kept her going. She dreamed of a future where she was free, where she could be herself again. But escape, she would soon learn, came at a heavy price. The road to freedom was fraught with danger and uncertainty. She would have to face her fears, confront the man who had tormented her, and find the strength within herself to break free. It was a journey that would test her in ways she never imagined, but it was a journey she knew she had to take. Seeking a fresh start, Esmeralda and Michael Medina moved to Kansas City, Missouri. They hoped to leave their past behind and build a better life together. The decision to stop escorting was mutual, driven by a desire for stability and a brighter future. The move was filled with optimism, a chance to rewrite their story in a new place. Kansas City offered them a sense of hope and renewal. They explored their new surroundings, finding joy in the simple pleasures of life. The city was a canvas for their dreams, a place where they could envision a future free from the shadows of their past. They embraced the change, finding comfort in each other's company and the promise of new beginnings. Esmeralda felt a glimmer of hope, a sense of belonging in their new home. The physical and emotional scars from their past were still there, but the new environment offered a chance to heal. She often found herself looking out at the horizon, dreaming of a future where she could finally be at peace. The mornings brought a sense of renewal, the rising sun symbolizing a new beginning.
For a brief moment, there was a glimmer of hope. I thought maybe, just maybe, I could start to heal, to rebuild my life. The mornings brought a sense of renewal, the rising sun symbolizing a new beginning. I clung to the hope that the worst was behind me, that I could finally move forward without the constant fear that had plagued me for so long. Maybe now, I could start to heal, to rebuild my life. I began to dream of a future where I could be free, where I could find happiness and peace. The small moments of joy, the simple act of breathing freely, felt like victories. I started to believe that I could reclaim my life, that I could be more than the pain and fear that had defined me for so long.
But their dreams were short-lived. Without the income from escorting, they struggled to make ends meet. The bills piled up, and soon they were evicted from their new home. The optimism that had once filled their hearts was replaced by desperation and fear. Medina's anger knew no bounds. He was furious that their past continued to haunt them. His rage was palpable, a storm that threatened to consume everything in its path. He shouted into the phone, his voice filled with venom, making threats that sent chills down Esmeralda's spine. His anger was a weapon, one he wielded with precision, aiming to break their spirit once more. He bombarded her with calls and texts, threatening her and her family. Each message was a dagger, a reminder that he was still out there, watching, waiting. The phone became a source of dread, each ring a harbinger of his wrath. She lived in constant fear, her every move shadowed by the threat of his retribution. He stalked her every move, his presence a constant shadow, a reminder that she was not truly free. No matter where she went, she felt his eyes on her, a sinister presence that haunted her steps. The fear was suffocating, a weight that pressed down on her, making it hard to breathe. She was trapped in a prison of his making, the bars invisible but unbreakable.
Fear gnawed at my newfound hope. Every shadow, every unexpected sound sent my heart racing. I couldn't shake the feeling that he was always just a step behind, ready to drag me back into the darkness. The anxiety was crippling, making it hard to trust, hard to believe that I could ever truly be free. I had escaped his physical grasp, but the terror of his control still held me captive. The walls of my sanctuary felt like they were closing in, the safety I had found with my family overshadowed by the looming threat of his return. I was free, but I was not free. The battle for my freedom was far from over, and I knew that I had to find the strength to keep fighting, to reclaim my life from the shadows of fear.
Desperate and out of options, Medina forced Esmeralda back to Las Vegas to resume escorting. The city that once held the promise of a new beginning now became a place of dread and danger. Esmeralda's return to escorting was not just a step back, it was a descent into a nightmare. Under Medina's orders, Esmeralda was forced into dangerous situations to make money. The fear and anxiety that had once been a shadow now became a living nightmare. She was constantly looking over her shoulder, the threat of violence ever present. Tragically, Esmeralda's life came to a brutal end. Following Medina's orders, she was sent on her last call and murdered by Christopher Prestopino and his two co-defendants, Cassandra Garrett and Lisa Mort. Esmeralda was held against her will, injected with pool cleaner, and then her body was stuffed in a wooden box and filled with cement before being buried in the desert. All three were arrested, but Michael Medina remains on the loose. Esmeralda Gonzalez was forced to escort against her will, and would never have gone back to doing that if not for Michael Medina. Hopefully this video will shed light